because we hire people based on the Zappos 10 core values, we're literally just looking for people whose personal values match the corporate values. And so when they match, you're automatically 10 times more likely to be friends with your coworkers, in not a forced way, but that's literally what happens when personal values match the corporate values, and you're actually hiring people based on those values versus just having it be this meaningless plaque on the wall or something. And so the side effect is that everyone is actually friends with everyone, not because they're forced to, but because that's what just naturally happens. And even when people leave Zappos, they still maintain their connections and friendships with what were formerly their coworkers. And so my philosophy is like, why have this separation? And really, you should just work with people you would want to hang out with, and then you have the best of both worlds.
See, here's the thing though. Chuck and I have worked a job together at a regular 9-to-5 office. And people who have listened to this podcast will know when you put us together, like it's sometimes like, you know what I mean? Like our personalities are too similar, and we've gotten in trouble at a regular job for being ourselves. So do you think...
Right, but not with each other.
Right.
And so that's my point, is like you guys work together, and I'm guessing you're also friends.
Yeah.
And
best friends.
Isn't that the best of both worlds? And really what you're talking about is because someone else didn't fit in that framework that maybe had more power than you guys.
That company did not value the culture.
Yeah. But imagine if that company did, in which case wouldn't you love to work together and hang out on weekends and so on?
Of course.
And so that's what we're trying to do.
So do you believe that, and I want to go back to the hiring process because I do have a couple of questions, but do you believe that any company can implement the strategies that you use and you take action on?
Yeah, for sure. I think it just takes this commitment to it. I think when you're starting from scratch, it's a little easier because you can just and we didn't even have values in the early days. Like myself and the Fred guy that I was talking about, that we just had our 20-year anniversary. Anytime anyone in the company wanted to hire someone, they'd go through, and we did this up until we were 100 employees. So I think every company that's fewer than 100 employees can do this. Any candidate went through the normal hiring process, and then once they wanted to make them a job offer, in our case, the final quote-unquote interview would be with me and Fred, and we would just go out to a bar or restaurant and just talk for a while. And we weren't interviewing for skills or experience or anything like that. It was super simple. It was, if we weren't forced to work with this person, would we still choose to grab a beer with them or dinner?
That's dope.
And if the answer is no, we didn't even think about values. It was just, is this someone we want to hang out with?
Right.
And the answer is no, then we shouldn't hire them.
So once they got past are they competent enough to perform the skills that they're needed to provide? Can we still see value in them as a person outside of that skill set?
Yeah, and literally a lot of times Fred and I had no idea what job they were interviewing for, and so it was very simple. It's just, let's go hang out, and then, just like in general, like if you go hang out with someone for an hour or two, you decide at the end of that, do we want to hang out again?
Keep communicating.
Because there's people that I hang out with, and I'm like, I probably wouldn't hang out with them.
Me too. I'm like, cut him.
I get it. I wanted to ask though, because I read something online where essentially through the hiring process, you guys would pay employees who were like basically trying to get the job. You would pay them for the training, but then you'd give them like a bonus to quit before they started the job. Is that something that's still implemented?
Yeah, and it's kind of the same idea in the reverse. Like, we don't really want employees that are there just for a paycheck. We want employees there because they're passionate about the company, the culture, our mission, and so on. And I think the last thing we want is someone that's there just because it's the only way they can pay rent. So we'd rather pay them so that question of, are you there just to pay rent, is out of the picture, and they can go find another job. Or
because there's plenty of jobs that will pay your rent, right? I mean, at the end of the day, everybody needs to get their rent paid. That is, of course, always the driving factor for where somebody has to go to work.
It's more just giving them relieving the pressure so that they can find what they're passionate about. And from our perspective, or I'll just speak for myself, it's no judgment or anything. Like my kind of personal, I don't know what you call it, mission or goal is to help people find the intersection of what they're passionate about and what they're good at and what's going to add value to whatever organization they're with. And sometimes the answer might be something in Zappos, and sometimes it's outside of Zappos. And I don't really care that much about which one it is, as long as they find it, as long as it's true.